name is Dan. I'm GMing a game of Dungeon World for the Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Convention. We are playing a little adventure called Midnight Run. We've got 3 players, and I'm going to ask them to introduce their characters. David, why don't you tell us about Silas?
Yeah, so Silas, I have Unspeaking is his name. He is a cleric of the Unseeing Eye, which is a very insular, cultish, and vaguely Lovecraftian order of individuals who are obsessed with the obtaining and hoarding of mystical knowledge. So while he presents himself as someone who fits very easily into polite society and is well trained and practiced in navigating and negotiating through their ranks, he himself is something of an outsider in his own mind. And in that respect, is sort of, I don't know, I suppose he thinks of himself as someone who blends in but doesn't necessarily fit in, but he would not have it any other way.
Is he the kind of cleric that has a congregation, or at one point had a congregation, or how does he spread the word of the Unseeing Eye?
Certainly. I think that he would not necessarily lead a congregation because I think there's a great deal of emphasis on individual practice as opposed to an organized kind of religious sect in his particular practice. But I think that what he would do to spread the word is to approach those who demonstrate some kind of propensity or some sort of, I guess for lack of a better word, potential in the eyes of the Unseeing Eye. And exactly what constitutes that potential maybe remains to be seen. But I think that that's the way that he would go about it, is he would find those who seem to have some potential for tapping into the more mystical or intuitive side of experiencing life and would contact them about the sorts of secrets and powers that following this deity might unlock for them.
Fantastic. Thank you. I've got James. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Lake?
All right. She's fairly tall, lean sort of a build on her. She's got, I'm imagining her with like hacked, short, graying hair, strong jaw, looks very tired all the time. She doesn't talk much. She doesn't have much patience for it, which is what the sword is for. And she has like an old half-burned cloak that she wears like wrapped around her neck basically all the time. It's just a thing that she's always carrying with her.
And your signature weapon is a sword.
Yes.
Sword. Does it have a name?
Does it have a name? It's a great question. I don't have a name for it, but I do want to name it now.
Let me ask a different question. Let's say you recovered your sword from the field of battle. What did you, Lake, do to earn renown in that war?
I feel like can you give me a bit of context for the war that it was?
I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas what kind of war might this have been? Maybe it was a war of independence that wrapped up, let's say, sounds like she's kind of on the older side, so maybe it wrapped up 10 years ago or so, 10, 15 years ago. And maybe she didn't really have a stake in this war. She was maybe more of a mercenary. So it was sort of someone else's war that she was fighting. Is it possible that she staged a rescue of someone? Is it possible that she defeated one of the main enemies on the field of battle? Is it possible that she recovered some artifact or some intelligence?
I think that she was hired by, let's say, the side that was on the wrong side of history.
Okay.
And defected at sort of the last moment of the battle, and struck down the some significant leader that kind of turned the tide of the conflict.
Is this sword the leader's weapon?
I think it was the leader's weapon.
Nice. Cool. And maybe we can name it later. Philip, tell me about Leuven.
Leuven Lightfingers is not a thief. He's a troubleshooter, and he's a member of the local troubleshooters guild.
Okay.
And what they do is they work with adventurers to make sure that they get through difficult times well, and they're paid quite well for it. He wears just a grayish cloak with leathers underneath, but even on the leathers, there's still some trappings of really ornate finery. And around that finery, there are tiny little daggers and knives kind of interspersed everywhere. Some are weapons, some are tools, but for the outsider, it's kind of hard to tell which is which.
So the weapons and tools are kind of integrated into his armor.
It's one of those, and he's very he tends to be very present when he's there, and he can drift into the background. He can kind of go from one personality to another, but he's very very he thinks highly of himself, and he's quite proud of what he's able to do.
What was the last group of adventurers that he helped?
Well, the problems. Well, I don't like the fact that you brought that up. It was certainly not Leuven's fault. He told them not to touch it. They insisted on touching it, and they brought it upon themselves. The guild had said he had nothing to do with it, and they were completely at fault. That's what he says. But sometimes people just don't listen when they're given good instruction.
I'm familiar with that problem. What's his relationship to the Troubleshooters Guild?
He's one of the founders of the Troubleshooters Guild. It used to be a thieves guild. Most people still think it is a thieves guild, but they're clearly wrong. They, it's in fact it's a thieves guild with a better marketing plan. So they figured out how to make money on both ends.
They just rebranded, really.
Well, if somebody steals your things and you need help get it back, they can help, and for a share.
Despite the guild standing up for him, for you in his last job, is there still a lawsuit pending? Is there still a bounty pending? Is there still some trouble following you?
That adventuring party was had a wealthy backer, whose daughter happened to be part of that group. But just because you buy a person a bow and say they're a ranger doesn't make them a ranger. And if Daddy wants to make sure that she gets sent off an adventuring party, maybe he should pay for training first rather than equipment.
Nice. So this could still come to haunt you later, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, pretty much everything Leuven does can go back to haunt him at some point.
That's all I needed to know. That was great. Thanks for those introductions. I'm going to start to kind of build up the plot now. You're starting in a frontier town called Treburn's Crossing. Silas, you've been wandering the frontier for a bit. What happened to you last time you came through Treburn's Crossing?
I would like to think that he became a bit overzealous in his spreading of the good word, and potentially was chased out of town. And this is his first time back, in some time. So he's trying to keep a bit of a low profile because the people out here are superstitious and they see bad voodoo whenever they speak with him. And so he's trying to, maybe play this one a little bit closer to the chest than usual.
Love it. Superstitious people in a frontier town. Perfect. Which one of you has the kind of most prominent reputation? Who among you do you think is the most well known?
I mean, just based on introductions, I would think either Lake for, the glory of war, that you can amass a reputation.
The whole rebellion thing.
Or also Leuven, because it just sounds like you get into a lot of shenanigans and you can build a reputation that way.
Yep. Yeah, he's more everybody knows him, but everybody rolls their eyes for him.
I like that.
You wouldn't call it famous, exactly.
Yeah, it's everybody loves to have a drink with him, but everybody doesn't want them to date their daughter. That sort of thing.
That
makes sense.
Yeah. You were called to Treburn's Crossing by the local magistrate for a special mission there, which is why you've sort of all ended up there. You got kind of a personalized note. And he's a little tentative in the note, or she's a little tentative in the note to say what the exact mission is, but you get the feeling that you need to provide security and escort to someone pretty important. And you're going to be going into some dangerous places. You have no idea why you were chosen for this mission. But as the mind works, sometimes you start to imagine, oh, I can see why they chose me. So what is one unique thing about you, that each of you, that might explain why you were chosen for this particular mission? Lake, let me start with you.
I don't want to just use the fact that I was in a war again. I feel like after the aftermath of all that business, I feel like she started to get a reputation for keeping folks safe when on jobs that she was hired for. Usually people it was less, actually, I like the idea that it's less and that when trouble happened, that she was able to deal with it. It's that the fact that she was involved in the job at all actually dissuaded people from causing trouble in the first place.
Just her mere presence.
Yeah.
Keeps things calm. Sure. A big sword will do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Leuven, why do you think you were chosen for this?
I think that the guild master of the Troubleshooters Guild have thought that Leuven needs a win, and so he figures he's pretty sure that this is a pity mission, but at this point he's willing to go along with it.
I got the name of this from a movie from the 80s, Midnight Run. I don't know if anyone's seen it, familiar with it.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's sort of a bounty hunter is escorting a white collar criminal, or kind of trying to get him across the country. And it's called Midnight Run because for a bounty hunter, a midnight run is just a really easy run, right? It's meant to be like you're just doing it overnight, you get your bounty in and you're done. This is not going to be a complicated thing. So what you just said, Leuven, really fits the idea, like, hey, your guildmaster is saying, hey, it's a midnight run. It's really easy. You just have to escort this person and you're done.
He needs a confidence booster.
He needs the confidence booster. I think in this case, Robert De Niro was about to retire, and so he just wanted kind of one last thing. I can't remember exactly. Unfortunately, we can't watch that one for family movie night. Silas, why do you think you were chosen for this?
I think that you said it was the magistrate who selected us personally.
Right.
I think that the magistrate would have a hard time really explaining it. I think that, given my character's religious background, a good explanation for why he particularly was chosen was that perhaps the magistrate received some kind of cryptic sign or some kind of dream that pointed toward the unseeing eye as the solution to his problems. And while he himself has no understanding of where this is coming from, he does know of a certain individual affiliated with that sect who was chased out of town just a couple of years ago. So he tracked me down, and under sort of this inauspicious sort of, confidentiality, sort of had me come back in under the cloak of night or something like that.
That sounds great. I'm taking notes on all of this. I can't help myself. I'm doing it in a Trello board, which I'm going to share with you all when we're all done, so you can see kind of how I organize things, but also the record of our adventure. So if you hear me typing or getting quiet while I'm taking notes, that's why. We've got about 10 minutes till the top of the hour, and I had so many questions I wanted to ask you. I do want to try and establish a tone for this. Are we going super dark? Are we going farcical? Are we going, I don't know, somewhere in between, grim? So when you arrive in Treburn's Crossing, the magistrate, whose name is a woman, her name is Alwyn, she introduces you to the person that you'll be escorting right away. She doesn't give him a name. He's just simply known as the prisoner. And he's a prisoner from the underground realm. So my question to you about the tone is, Silas, let's go with you. What is the prisoner's demeanor? Are they quiet and brooding? Are they suspicious and sarcastic? Are they jolly and engaging? What is it? How does the prisoner behave in general around you all?
I envision them, and I'm willing to talk about this and get other people's input, because but I mean, my initial impression is that this is someone who they appear to be very, very cooperative, like, hey guys, I don't want any trouble, like, let me just work with you, so we're just getting this done. But you can't help but get the impression that they're hiding something. Like that kind of, you're almost being too friendly, too polite, too cooperative, that kind of attitude.
I feel like I've seen that movie. That is great. I love that. Anyone else want to add anything to the prisoner's demeanor?
I think that he's the prisoner is absolutely confident that everybody likes him, so he's kind of got that, he's got that, attitude. We know he's not good, but at the same time, it's hard not to like him. So,
like he might use humor or charm to conceal something else that's going on. So it's kind of, you're all experienced enough where maybe it's setting off some alarm bells, like, hey, here's something else going on behind the scenes, but I'll play along with this person.
Yeah, he's exactly the kind of person that, here, let me help you out, and it's just looking for the opportunity to escape or take us down, or that sort of thing.
The magistrate explains actually that it's that the world that, or the land, the entity that you all live in has struck some kind of deal with the underground realm. And so there's an exchange happening. So they're trading this prisoner for whatever it is that your world is kind of getting in return for it. And that is not something that is made clear to you at the outset. And to be honest, I have no idea what that is, so we'll play to find out. But your understanding is it's not so much that the prisoner is going to want to escape, but that the prisoner is going to want to get back, and that you're escorting him because he might face, you can't just let him go. You want to make sure that he gets to where he's going, and then he might face danger along the way. So you want to make sure on your world's behalf that this exchange can happen. All right, so that I think helps me set the tone. Let's just talk a little bit about Treburn's Crossing. It's a frontier town. Silas, you've clearly been here before. What is the general tone in the town? Is it sort of kind of military and dour? Is it sort of made up? Is it a little jolly with explorers and adventurers who are all kind of seeking their fortune? Is it maybe just some quiet homesteaders? What do you get as the feeling at this outpost?
My first thought is that it is very, much to Silas's undoing in the past, it's very pastoral, it's very idyllic, it's very family oriented. It's a bunch of people who grew up here, have worked here, lived their whole lives here, gotten married here, settled down, died here, and that's just how it's always been. So they aren't accustomed to getting a lot of outsiders, but they don't really mind that. They quite like having their own little community where everybody knows each other. And in that respect, it's a lovely place to be if you were born there. And if you weren't, there's this very smiling sort of distrust that you might get from people.
Nice. Leuven, have you been here at all in your travels?
Very briefly. I've come through here, kind of looked around, said, yeah, this is not for me, and kind of moved on. The fact that the restaurant in town added a second side dish for each meal was the craziest thing that happened last month, and that was yeah, this is not exactly his cup of tea.
What did you eat when you were at that restaurant?
Whatever it was, and it was very bland, and just the you get one glass of wine. I didn't realize wine came in glasses. So that was it.
And it's watered down.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And the second side dish was just another form of potato. Basically.
Yeah, everything's potato.
Yeah, love it.
Yep.
Lake, how are you greeted when you arrive in this town? Your reputation precedes you. What do people think about you?
I think they probably have heard of me and they're not into it. So they consider me someone who probably brings trouble. And furthermore, maybe they were supporting the other side of the conflict.
So quiet suspicion, maybe.
Yeah.
And generally, there are not a lot of giant swords in this town. So
Not a lot of giant swords.
Not a lot of giant swords.
They don't even sell them. Yeah.
And the fact that
really we have nothing in common.
And the fact that they have an evil underworld villain here, but of course it's an evil underworld white collar villain.
Yes.
It's like a demonic accountant or something.
He's a white collar. Let's talk a little bit about the underground realm. So that's kind of an area, and then we'll take a quick break. Leuven, you're probably the most, well, you're all fairly widely traveled, but what is the rumor about the underground realm? Or let me put it this way: none of you have been to the underground realm. It's kind of a separate country, let's call it, and they built their civilization under a huge mountain, and the two countries rarely interact with each other. But the guild kind of keeps their eye on the underground realm. What are some of the what's one rumor that you've heard about this place?
That every time somebody is born in our realm, somebody is born in the other realm that is us, but the opposite.
That's so good. Oh my goodness.
Great.
10 out of 10.
So it's all the mirror universe from Star Trek, basically.
I'm gonna need to think about that one for a while. That's cool. And Silas, when you commune with the unseeing eye about this mission, you get some kind of vision about the underground realm. What is it that you've learned about, whether it's kind of very clear cut or not?
Hmm.
What did you learn?
It's a good question. The first thing that springs to mind is that getting lost is almost a certainty, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That is awesome. That's like a fortune cookie. It can mean
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
you sort of get these visions of being lost, but it doesn't come with it the same kind of anxiety that being lost would have.
Right. I wouldn't say it's comforting necessarily, but it is quote unquote right.
Love it. And Lake, what should I ask you about this? Maybe your people have a superstition about the people from the underground realm. What is the superstition about them? What do they think might happen to them if they were to meet or interact with someone from the underground realm?
Interesting. So many choices. That's so good. I think maybe they imagine that I'm struggling with this one.
I'm gonna ask you a different question.
Okay.
Harder. Another question I had written down is, maybe you have another secret reason to go to the underground realm. What would be your reason to go to the underground realm?
Okay. Maybe I can answer both questions.
Okay, good.
I think the superstition is that the sort of feeding into the thing Philip said, that the two mirror beings are one is the true one and one is the false one.
Nice.
And that the false one is like inherently drawn to seek out and take over the life of the true one. And sorry?
That gave me chills. Go ahead. That's good.
And I think maybe Lake is the false one. She doesn't necessarily know that, but she feels drawn to go down there and find her other self. I'd like to make a slight amendment to the thing that I just said earlier, because I would like to keep it as a superstition. So just like so that's what they believe, that there is like a positive and a negative, but that Lake like has no sense of which one she is, and whether that's actually a thing. I would like to leave sort of ambiguous at this stage. But her thinking is that, well, I'm just going to go down there and deal with this problem, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
All right. That's great. I was thinking the same thing during the break. I was like, maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she's. Maybe
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. That's great.
Cool.
Any other retconning we need to do?
I'm ready to go.
Nope.
So let's role play a bit in Treyburton's Crossing, and then we'll take it from there. The magistrate is, as I said, a woman named Allen. She's tall, has clearly gotten a lot of sun, but still wears a hat. She's got sort of a glorious head of hair that she kind of keeps piled up under the hat, and she arranges to meet you at breakfast. So I'm imagining that you all arrived in the kind of early evening, got some dinner, and then she introduced you all over breakfast. And that's when she had some of her people bring out the prisoner. He's bound, but he's not like heavily chained or anything. And she says, "I see you all got my notes. Thank you for coming. And on this very important mission, we received the prisoner a few days ago, or we received the prisoner last week, and from somewhere else in the realm, and we were told that he needs to be returned to the underground realm, and I thought you three would be the best for this job. My hope is that you can leave as soon as possible. Is there anything you all need from me before you get going?"
Well, I certainly want to make sure at first that we are doing okay on light sources down there. I'm looking at my own inventory, and I don't see that I have a whole lot of dungeoneering gear, and so any amount of rope, torches, things of that nature that might be important in going on a bit of a spelunking mission would be much appreciated.
Sure, we can supply you with some torches. I would imagine you're not going to spend too much time underground. Once you get to the entrance to the underground realm, they should greet you there to arrange for the exchange. So, but things could take a turn, she says.
How great. And like says, how far is that entrance?
And she points to a map, and she says it is about. It's a let's call it a day and a half journey, but you'll go over some rough country to get there.
Is the plan to march on just open road, or is it through basically what you said, kind of this rough wilderness?
Yeah, you're all familiar enough with geography to know that there's no direct route, so to speak, that you're going to basically be going over frontier terrain, so not well developed at all.
I think this is pretty straightforward, but I do have 6 questions. Who are we going to meet? How are we supposed to know them? Is there anybody else aware of what's going on? Are there any natural opposition to us in actually doing this? Is it how public is this? And is this and along the same lines? Can we tell anybody as we pass through what we're doing, or do we have to keep this under wraps?
Well, I can see I chose the right people for the job. You would like to know, you like to be prepared, and I appreciate that. And by this time, the prisoner is sort of laughing under his breath, sort of doing one of those chortling, is that a word? Things. And She looks at him and she looks back at you and she says, "This is a sanctioned job by the state. They are well aware of this transfer happening. They're well aware that there may be other threats on the prisoner's life, which is why we're asking you, not to mention going over this difficult terrain, why we're asking you to escort him there." To be honest, if you meet other people on the way there, we don't know how they're going to react. As you know, there are a lot of, let's call them misguided beliefs about people from the underground realm.
Is this individual observably from the underground realm?
In my mind, there are distinguishing features that make it very clear that they're from the underground realm. I don't know what those are. So what have you observed about this person that makes them distinct?
Could be a certain set of like cultural tattoos or piercings or something along those lines, maybe.
I also imagine they might wear sunglasses of some sort because they're used to being underground. I like it.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah. I get, and along those same lines, who are we picking up, and how do we know it's the right person?
Alwyn sort of holds her head a bit and she says, "You know bureaucracy as well as I do. No one has told me what the exchange is. I don't know. I don't even know if you're supposed to get it from them or you're supposed to go somewhere else. You'll have to find out when you get there."
Okay.
So we don't know who we're meeting. Could be anybody.
Yeah. My assumption, they know you're coming, so my assumption is that some authority.
Hold on a second. Says like, she sort of leans forward and she's like, "You're saying that there might be some opposition that we're going to run into. There are some folks who are maybe looking to take this prisoner, kill him, what? And we also don't know who we're meeting. He could just trick us."
You need to take him to the underground realm. You'll be met at the underground realm by the local authority figure. Meanwhile, the prisoner is sort of doing one of these eye-rolly type things while he's bound up. "Oh yeah, there's going to be other people looking for me."
Sorry, who is this guy?
The prisoner looks at Alwyn and says, "Yeah, who am I?" And she says, "I'm sorry, in Traburn's Crossing, we don't ask questions. We do what we're told. They delivered him to me. They told me to hire some folks to get him to the underground realm. We are the closest settlement to the underground realm." And as she's talking, a sound starts to, a sound emerges. It's a low rumbling, almost like an earthquake. In fact, almost just like an earthquake. It's loud and you can feel it in your bones. She runs outside to take a look. My question to you all is, can she see what's making the sound, or can she not see what's making the sound? I just need a yes, she can see, or no, she cannot see.
Yeah, she can see.
Yeah, we'll go with yes.
All right. So she's like, "Damn it, it's happening again." Dust in the distance, she sees a dust cloud. If you've joined her outside, you can also see this dust cloud emerging, and you can feel the ground shaking. What do you do?
I think I would prioritize keeping my eye on this prisoner such that he doesn't bolt in the midst of all the chaos. So I'm going to try to hold steady and just keep my eye on this guy.
Okay, love it. Lake, what are you doing?
Lake sort of walks up beside her and sort of nudges her. And she says, "What is this?" She doesn't like that there's this weird thing happening. She's like, "I don't know what is going on," and that makes her uncomfortable.
You're asking Alwyn what's going on.
That's right.
Okay, And Leuven, what are you doing?
I'm going to concentrate on the dust cloud and see if I can identify what it is.
Okay. Owen says to Lake, they're stampeding again. It's the second time this month. And she kind of runs off, and you see her kind of clanging a bell, and all of a sudden townsfolk start making movements to sort of secure things. Philip, as you're looking, Leuven, as you're looking in the distance, you all you can really see is kind of a mass of animals, something or other, making its way towards the town. And Silas, the prisoner's not going anywhere. He seems wholly unimpressed. He does not seem to even really care what's going on. What do you do?
Asking myself? Or everyone collectively?
Anyone, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the prisoner leans over to you and says, maybe we should get going.
I was gonna say, I would like to ask him, do you know anything about this? You seem to act as if you're very comfortable with this, and I have to ask, what do you know about all this?
This is the first I've seen of a stampede. I guess I heard some of the townsfolk complaining about it, but I'm going to be honest, I spent the last week in a jail cell.
You seem oddly comfortable with a cross-country trek that, by all accounts, seems to pose a threat to your life.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going home. Maybe we should get going because the stampede is getting closer.
So Lake has turned around from, what was her name, sorry?
Alwyn.
Olwyn. And is walking straight for the prisoner at this point. If no one else is doing anything, she's literally going to grab him by the arm and start walking in the direction that she thinks we need to go.
And in fact, Alwyn turns to you from where she was ringing the bell. She's like, what are you still doing here? Get going. Leuven, how do you react?
We would have been more than happy to help, but apparently she just wants us to leave. So I know when I'm not wanted.
So much for the torches, folks. I guess we're off.
Up to you. Do you want to stay and help or what?
Lake's leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, if Alwyn is telling us to go, I mean, I'm not hired to ask questions at this time, so
Yeah.
I'm off. Dragging the prisoner with me.
We can always come back and help rebuild the town later.
I like that. That's great. Yeah, as you are kind of walking out of town, you see them handling some of their beasts of burden to try and divert the stampede of sauropods that are descending upon them. So they've ridden out, and they actually seem quite good at this, as if they've dealt with it before. You're on the road now. How are you going? One of you believes that the best way to go is along the river. Which one of you believes that the best way to go is along the river?
I think that would be a Leuven thing when he's thinking if that we crisscross the river so nobody can track us using traditional means.
And one of you thinks that going through the river is called Kolio, by the way. And one of you thinks going through Bahar's Bluff is the right way to go. Which one of you thinks Bahar's Bluff is the way to go?
Is Bahar's Bluff more direct?
No, they're both the same.
Just drier.
Just less river. Yeah.
I'll vouch for Bahar's Bluff, not on the basis of any strategic reason, but just because my character Silas, horrified of drowning.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's a personal problem, but he's not going to disclose that to you guys.
So Leuven and Silas, can you hash it out?
Well, there are two options. We can either go the river way or we can go the wrong way.
I see. Now, question for Dan. How deep is this river? How wide is it? How treacherous is it? Would I know that?
It's a well-known river. There's settlements up and down it. Leuven, have you been along this river before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is one of those where there's a lot of cargo that goes up and down the river.
That's right. Okay.
So it's basically the highway for the trade system. So if anybody has anything to do with goods, they know the river.
The following accompaniments have been
I'm so
recorded
sorry.
with the harmonica parts
Oh
from the
my
book
gosh.
on one.
I pushed a bad button. Don't touch your keyboard. Okay, so trade goods go up and down the river. I like it. And Silas, what do you know about Bahar's Bluff? Bahar's Bluff is actually a slot canyon that kind of cuts a swath towards the underground realm. What do you know about it?
You said that it's sort of a wide canyon that kind of cuts across the land and leads toward the underground realm?
Yeah, yes.
I think that it would be ill-traversed. I imagine it as a fairly deep sort of gorge with these little nooks and crannies and caverns at its base in which are rumored to lurk all manner of monsters that we just don't want to get into contact with. So I would say that no one really goes out there. And to my own misfortune, I think that it's quite hard to justify going that direction. At least according to any traveler's guidebook or any civilized understanding of the area. Why would you do that? Is sort of the question that I find myself having to justify.
So okay. So tell me a little bit about how this conversation goes.
I envision myself stumbling and stuttering a bit as I try to make up some inane reason as to why I'm opposed to crossing this river, despite knowing that there's no particular reason that I can point out. It's widely used for travel and for trade. I guess I would ask Leuven, how are we going to get across this thing if you know so much about it?
There are tiny little crossings that basically that are rope ferries that go to the other side with flats, so you can cross back and forth across that way. That they go up and down the river. They actually have the ropes sag, so ships can go through and then they pull it back up. All the ships are really flat bottom. So there's a whole mechanism for it. I figure we'll just go that way until we see the first ferry. It's a couple coppers to cross.
In fact, the way underground realm is downriver, so the idea is that you would sort of get on a boat to try and go downriver a bit.
I am, and I think this to myself, I am frustrated with how reasonable that seems to be. So I would like to, if I can, I would like to excuse myself from the group for a moment. And I'm not familiar with how spellcasting works exactly, but I'd like to select the spell Guidance as my rope spell.
Love it.
And I'd like to at least cast a quick guidance spell to see if I can get any kind of mystical or intuitive knowledge as to what the correct route to proceed may be.
Okay. So our first roll only took me an hour and a half to get here. That's great. You roll, when you cast Unleash a spell granted to you by your deity, you roll plus wisdom. So you're going to roll 2d6 and add your wisdom bonus, which is
that is 2.
2.
Okay. Go ahead and do it then. Here we go. 8 plus 2 is 10.
So you rolled 10. So the spell is successfully cast, and your deity does not revoke the spell, so you can cast it again. So basically, if you rolled 7 and 9 or a 6 minus, the deity would take commune or whatever it is, guidance away from you. So the symbol of your deity appears before you and gestures in the direction or course of action your deity would have you take, then disappears. The message is through gesture only. Your communication through this spell is severely limited. Talk to me about the ritual that you have to go through in order to cast this spell.
Okay, well, I'll say that this is a similar kind of ritual for most spells that aren't, instantaneous and combat focused. This individual who I worship is called the Unseeing Eye, and I imagine that I have a small holy symbol upon which is inscribed an eye, but it has kind of a pale, sort of milky blue color to it, such that one would recognize it as a blind eye, one that's obstructed by cataracts or just long-term blindness, that kind of thing. And I imagine that what I do is I close my own eyes and hold the holy symbol before my own face as if I'm seeing through this unseeing eye.
Love it.
And the teaching that this embodies is that the senses that our bodies possess are wholly inadequate to understand the full nature of the cosmos and reality, and only through this unseeing intuition can we really come to any true understanding of the nature of things. So that's what I'm doing, is that's how I'm searching for guidance, by holding this symbol to myself and seeing through it.
As you hold it up, I imagine you're sort of turning your head to try and see where the gesture is. And the way to the river doesn't appear to be glowing at all or gestured to at all. And the way towards the slot canyon is not gestured to at all. And you turn to your companions, and Leuven just appears like Leuven, but Lake is glowing. And the image of your deity is sort of pointing at Lake. What do you do?
With an open-minded sort of curiosity, I will gently restore, the holy symbol to its old place where I keep it, perhaps under a cloak. And I'll return to everyone, and I'll kind of raise my finger as if I'm about to say something to Leuven, but then I'll turn to Lake and say, what do you think?
Lake looks at Silas, and she looks at Leuven. She looks at Silas again, and she says, Bluff's a great place to get ambushed.
I love it. She's a woman of
At this point, Leuven rolls his eyes back in his head, so you see whites, and I just point, and I just point down the river, and then I turn and start walking in that direction.
I rub my temples with increasing irritability and say, very well, we take the river then. And I just grab my things and kind of gesture to the prisoner, this way, and we'll take off.
Lake will pat Silas on the back in a sort of a conciliatory manner as she walks off.
Leuven mutters something about, maybe we should have gone to the Bluffs.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit. You are on the river on a boat. No need to figure out how we're getting on the boat. Let's just assume you've rented a boat. Do you have a guide, or are you able to kind of control the boat yourself?
I think it's more like a Huckleberry Finn, like a big flat raft with kind of like a stick almost. So it's more of a, the guy that owns it is using it, and so he's not necessarily a guide as much as just the pilot.
And as he pushes you down the river, you see settlements on either side of the river. It's fairly large and fairly flat. It's like ideal for trade. But as you're moving along, you're getting away from the frontier settlements. You're getting away from the trade barges that are moving along. And he kind of moves his raft towards the shore and steps off, handing the pole to Lake, and says, if you need to go further, I'm not going with you. It gets dangerous beyond here. Just return the raft to me. Return it to me when you're done doing whatever you're doing, and I assume I will be compensated handsomely. What do you do?
You assume that, she says, and takes the pole.
I recognize Leuven from the Guildmaster, from the Troubleshooters Guild. I know where to find him.
Everybody knows where to find me.
And he walks off.
Well, I guess we have a raft now.
As who's driving or who's pushing?
Lake's happy to drive.
Manual labor? No.
I don't have the composure for it.
Yes. I imagine Leuven's like, I'm a troubleshooter.
Yeah, ladies first.
Yeah.
Very much a gentleman in this respect.
Lake doesn't even like offer anybody else the pole. She's just going.
Fine. All right. Yeah, it's becoming more, the river's coming narrower. Trees are starting to overhang a lot more. It's getting darker. And I think it's time for us to try a little bit of Dungeon World combat. So as you're pushing through, some of the trees start to reach down to you, and in fact, one vine in particular starts to wrap around Silas.
Harder to be ambushed, they say. Safer, they say. All right.
I scream, Silas, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness.
Dress up. Yes.
All right. I imagine that I would say, what do you mean, what am I doing? There's nothing happening. And my voice is cut off as this thing begins to maybe tighten about my throat. Is that the intention?
Sure. It's starting to tighten around your throat. And maybe even you start to feel lifted up a little bit.
I will gesture wildly to my compatriots and with all my might try to wrench this thing from me. Although I don't think that I have a particularly admirable strength. Nope, it's average. So I'll do my best.
So that triggers a move called Defy Danger. When you act despite an imminent threat or suffer calamity, say how you deal with it and roll. So what you're saying is you're going to try and pull this vine off of you. You can roll with strength, or I'll let you roll with constitution. I don't know if that's better for you.
It's a little bit better.
If you do it by strength, you're powering through. If you're doing it with constitution, you are enduring. So what do you do?
I will take a deep breath, bear down, and endure.
Okay, great. So you roll 2 dice and you add your constitution.
All right, so it's going to be these 2 plus 1.
Oh, nice.
I'm burning through all my luck early. It's another 10.
You've managed to pull the vine away from your throat, so it's no longer choking you. Leuven, what are you doing?
After going, I can't hear you. I dive forward with a. I pull out a blade and I try to cut the vine that's above Silas's head.
Okay, we'll roll for that in a sec. And Lake, what are you doing?
Lake lifts the pole. I assume, does it fit in the boat? Is it? How's it?
I'm a city boy. Sure, poles fit in boats, as far as I know.
She sets the pole in the boat so we don't lose the pole.
Okay, good.
And is getting ready to draw her sword.
The prisoner says to you, "Can you unbind me so I can help?"
No, she says.
So you're drawing your sword. Leuven, you are attacking the vine. Is that right?
Yeah, basically, I'm trying to slice the vine off above Silas's head.
All right, so we'll roll hack and slash with strength.
So an 8.
So on a 7-9, you deal your damage to the enemy, and the enemy makes an attack against you. So tell me what this looks like.
Sure. I dash forward and I think I probably successfully slice Silas's vine. And as I go to scold Silas, another vine grabs me around the neck.
Perfect. Love it. That's great. Lake, where are you at?
All right, I'm gonna try and. She's just going to like do a big overhead swing, and try to just like obliterate these vines.
Okay, great. So
Hack
hack and slash roll.
and slash. So what? Sorry, I missed the roll.
Yep.
What am I
Roll
rolling here?
D6, and then you're going to add your strength.
Just a D6.
2d6.
2d6.
Whoa. And your strength is?
All right.
Strength is a +2. You rolled an 11. Nice.
Cool.
So you deal your damage to the enemy and avoid their attack. At your option, you may choose to do additional damage, but expose yourself to the enemy's attack. So what do you want to do?
I think she's playing defensively at the moment. So she's not going to try and do it. She's just trying to get everyone clear of the vines so that she can keep rowing.
Okay. So you don't want to, you're saying you don't want to expose yourself?
I don't want to expose myself.
Okay. So you successfully cut the vines. But when you turn to come back to look at the pole, you notice a vine is wrapping around the prisoner. I'm going to say, Leuven, you are now free of the vine. Silas is now free of the vine, but you're seeing something going around the prisoner, and he just sort of looks at you like, really? Like that. He's got sort of a 21st century tone to him. What do you do?
I think that I would dive across the boat and do what I can to get the prisoner, untied. And as I'm struggling with him, I will shout over my shoulder to Lake, "Quit swinging your sword and get us out of here." So I'm attempting to dissuade use of force here.
Okay.
I like it.
Nice. Good job. You should mark an experience for that.
Cool.
Leuven, what are you doing now that you're free?
I agree with Silas, and I go for his lawful flag, and I say, I agree with Silas. No bloodshed need here. Just pilot the boat. We need to get out of here.
Love it. Mark a flag. And but the prisoner is still being entwined. Lake, what do you do? One suggestion.
I think she's gonna.
Go ahead.
Sorry? No.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say maybe you tell them to steer the boat because you're the one with the giant sword.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so what do? You tell them this, and then you...
She points at Silas and she says, "You, Pole, I've got the sword."
Me, sword. A prisoner is still being entwined.
Okay, well, so I guess I have to decide whether to attend to the prisoner or pilot things. I guess I will then look at Leuven and say, dagger him, like just pointing frantically, and I don't mean to kill him, but and then I'll like grab the pole and try to pilot us out of here. But again, I'm evidently terrified of water, so I don't know if there's the equivalent of a hold steady roll in Dungeon World, like some kind of roll to keep your composure, or...
Actually, it's a really good idea. So I'm going to have you do a Defy Danger roll through mental fortitude. So basically, you're using your wisdom to try and maintain your composure while you're pushing, because it's not hard to move the boat, but you are scared. So hold that thought. Who's cutting out the prisoner? Because if you pull, the vine's just going to take the prisoner. And the prisoner's like, it would be a really good time for someone to use one of their sharp weapons to remove this vine from my body. Anyone cutting him down?
Oh, I will try to cut him down. I will use that. I want to slide across. Can I use dexterity instead of strength for something like this, or is it just a pure strength?
If you're hacking and slashing, it's a strength roll.
Okay.
If you are throwing a dagger to try and cut it from afar, then that would be a volley, and I would let you roll with dex.
I think this is more it's less likely to actually be good. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide across the deck and look the prisoner right in the eyes as I fasten it. Yes, I'm less likely to actually succeed, but it's more about looking good while I do it.
Sure, obviously. Why else would you be here?
Yeah.
I love it.
Totally.
So a 5. So I'm assuming as I go to, I look Silas. I look the prisoner right in the eyes as I start to undo it. As we probably both now are entangled in this in the vines.
Yes.
So now we're tied together.
Yes. I'm gonna have Lake tell me what they're doing, and then what she's doing, and then Silas will do your Defy Danger roll. So Lake, how are you going to save your companions here?
So that was a failed roll.
Oh yeah, mark a failed roll. Thanks.
Yep. She says, "God damn it," and will charge down the boat and try to just like. I'm having a bit of trouble visualizing what exactly the vines are doing. Is it just like a bunch of vines, or is it?
Trees are overhead. Vines are kind of coming down.
Yeah.
And now there's multiple vines wrapping around the prisoner. So.
She wants to do just like a massive sweep, like all around the boat, and just destroy all of these vines that are at this point really causing us a lot of problems.
God, I love that. All right, so why don't you roll for that hack and slash? Sweet.
All right.
Done.
This time I would like to expose myself.
Okay. I have not been, none of us have been rolling damage, as you can tell, but that's how I roll in Dungeon World. But yeah, why don't we say that if you're exposing yourself to damage, I'm going to roll, hang on, let me see what these guys do. You get nicked with a thorn. So they're kind of nasty thorns.
Flesh wound.
But not that nasty. So you take 3 hit points of damage, but the vines are done. Silas, why don't you give me a roll on maintaining your composure?
+2 for wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
10 total.
So what does that look like? Help me understand. When Silas is maintaining his composure, what does that look like?
I think it looks like he gives off the appearance of maintaining his composure. Internally, what he's doing is just white knuckling his way through this until the adrenaline wears off, and he'll probably have some real anxiety to cope with at the end of all of this.
Okay.
But in the meantime, he just has, his hand firmly upon this tool that he's using to drive the boat, and he's just getting down as hard as he can to get the darn boat going, and he's just trying as hard as he can. It's a real force of will kind of thing.
Is there something related, like a saying or something that he says under his breath related to the unseen eye that kind of gives him strength?
Let's see.
I can do this.
I think he would be just like the thing he always says to himself is wisdom in all things, and he's trying to find some kind of lesson to be learned in this horrible misadventure that he is having to endure.
Nice. That's great. Um, is there some moment in Silas's past where he had to do something similar? Was there something sort of in his adopting this particular religion or a ritual that he had to go through when he adopted the Unseeing Eye as his deity? Or was there when he was chased out of town or in trying to convert someone? Where's another time in Silas's life when he had to muster this inner strength?
I'm thinking of a flashback of the time in which he developed this horrible phobia of water.
Nice.
It flashes back, kind of in my mind's eye at least. We're having a quick flashback to him nearly drowning. Maybe he's kind of like a younger adolescent or even a child. He's floating down this river, being swept away. He was just going out for a swim with his friends, but ventured a bit too close to the current, and whoosh, he's going down the river, and he sees this vine kind of jutting out, floating along the side, and he has to lunge forward and pull himself onto it by force of will, and then it kind of fades back into him with his hands on this stick, and he's doing the same thing, pulling himself forward.
That's great. Thanks for that.
Love it.
So we're getting towards the top of the hour. Let me think. You are getting towards the end of the river. This is what I'll do. And you see a settlement up ahead at the end of the river. The settlement sort of sits at the edge of the river, and beyond it, you start to hear the sound of rushing water. And the prisoner says to you, "We're going to want to get off. That's a waterfall that you hear. It's the Great Falls of Plema, and they fall hundreds of feet. What do you do?"
Well, either I can redirect the boat, or I can, at the first opportunity, toss the pole to Lake, and see if Lake is better equipped to handle this, because I'm already at my breaking point.
Yep,
I might do that in a fit of self-preserving cowardice. I will toss the stick over to Lake and dart to the back of the boat, looking to see what the quickest route to shore is if all things fall apart here.
I would like to look to see if there is a spot where all of these rafts are basically congregating, like the last stop before the lake.
Oh yeah.
Where they're all kind of tied up, where they go on land and then they're carried overland back up the river.
It's like a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike, basically.
It's like the last one. It's like the Molly Pitcher rest stop, that sort of thing.
You don't want to go to that one. That one's gross. You go to the one just before it. So,
Lombardi.
It's a little Acela corridor humor. Okay. It's fairly obvious, that the town is also known as Plema. I've put it in the chat, and there are a couple of rafts tied up there.
I point over and I say that we've got to get there. We probably should have started a couple of minutes ago, but we got to get there.
The prisoner looks relieved to see the town. In fact, as you pull up to the town, there's a fisherman who you can fish on a river, right? Yeah. He puts his pole down and he kind of
can fish anywhere. You can fish in your living room. You're not going to catch anything.
These days, that's all the fisherman can do. Yes. So he kind of holds his hands out, hoping to help you kind of pull up to the little dock that's there. As you step off into the town, he looks at the prisoner and he says, it's nice to see you again. And the prisoner says, it's been a long time. What do you do?
You two know each other? Says like.
The fisherman, who I will call Galerion, he says, I'm Galerion, and this man has passed through this way before, but it's been, what, years? And the prisoner nods. He says, everyone healthy and doing okay? And Galerion says, we're getting by. Do your companions need anything?
I look around and I go, I don't know. You know the town. Do we need anything? I look at the prisoner.
He's like, maybe a meal?
Yeah, I could eat.
Sure, and while we're doing that, I might see about getting those provisions that I didn't get the chance to get back in last time.
Galerian says, yeah, sure. Join me. I've got some freshly baked bread and cheese here. Where are you all headed?
Lake will sort of step forward and she says, we can't stay long.
That's
Completely avoiding the question.
I only have the one loaf of bread, so that's fine. I'm the town healer. Does anyone need any healing or medication?
Can you do something about this? She shows the neck from the thorn.
Oh, you got nicked by one of the vines. Did you have any visions when they got you?
No.
I
She
point at
says.
Silas. I go, that's his job.
Yeah, this is intriguing, but I'll keep that to myself.
Interesting. Sometimes the toxin that's in the vine thorns will cause people to have visions of their own demise. We call them cemetery vines.
Are they true visions? She says, and she looks concerned now.
We've never been able to confirm whether they've been true or not. We just know that people have returned, after getting nicked by the thorn with the toxin in it. They've been they haven't been the same since, so it's difficult to get a good read. We all in this town have an immunity to the vines, so none of us have ever really experienced it. It's only travelers passing through. But she patches you up, and I'll give you 2 hit points back. She's good. She's not the best, but she's good. Or he is good. I'm sorry, I should say. Anything else you all want to do in this town?
I am, acquiring some, just on the off chance that we need them, 50 feet of rope, a few torches, a lantern if we can afford that kind of thing. Just simple equipment that we would need for light sources and traversing any major problems if they came about.
I'll give you, you can take adventuring gear. The way this works in Dungeon World is it's all fairly abstract. So you just have something called adventuring gear. And if you need something from it, you mark a use. And yeah, that's how it is. And then you can just describe what you have from it.
Perfect.
So why don't you take adventuring gear and make it 1 weight, because that obviously matters in this adventure.
Sure.
And Galerion leans over to the prisoner and says, they were here looking for you.
Do we hear this?
Yeah, Galarian is not subtle.
Lake says, "Who? Who's after you?" She's addressing the prisoner. She's actually ignoring Galarian.
The prisoner's like, it could be anybody, really. I mean, there's so many people. It could be.
What'd you do? She says.
I missed what you asked. What did you
What'd
ask?
you do?
The prisoner says, I can't tell you that. Let's just say that I'm not going home to be celebrated.
Huh.
I will turn to, I apologize if I forget the name, but the
Galarian.
Galarian, yes, exactly. I'll gesture to him and say, somewhat quietly as an aside, is this guy telling the truth?
As long as I've known him, he has acted out of a sense of justice, but that doesn't always align with a sense of right and wrong.
Misguided justice, perhaps.
Galarian says they were here just a few days ago. Looking for you, knowing that you were going to come. So it's possible that that you passed them on the river, or that they're not far. Wherever you're going, you should probably make haste. And as he is, do you have any reactions to that?
Lake will say, "Who's they?"
He says it was a pair of adventurers, ne'er-do-wells. I don't know who they were exactly or what they wanted with him.
Heavily armed?
Aren't they all?
That's true.
Leuven, any questions for Galarian?
Oh no, I'm just waiting for the inevitable ambush.
It's happening, and in fact, 2 arrows thunk into the in front of you as you all are talking. What do you do?
Ambush is here.
There it is.
That ambush we ordered finally arrived. Yes.
Lake will grab the prisoner and start moving.
I was going to say, on my end, I will draw my warhammer and immediately begin scanning the surrounding wilderness in an effort to ascertain where these arrows are coming from.
Great. And Leuven?
I do the same. I basically draw a dagger and I kind of scan and I look to see where it is, trying to put my dagger right in an archer's face.
Okay. Let's do this. Well, those trigger all kinds of moves. I'm going to start with Leuven. Since you're looking around, you are triggering something called Discern Realities, which is when you closely study a situation or person, you roll with wisdom. So why don't you give me a roll there?
All right. And would an ambush be considered a criminal activity?
Fascinating. I can't imagine how it wouldn't be.
Probably not legal, right? To just start
most
firing
cases.
arrows at people.
Then 11.
Okay, so you rolled an 11 for your discern?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hold that thought. Sorry, Silas, if you are doing the same thing, then I also need to discern realities from you.
Very well. Here we go. That's a 10.
Nice. I think I need to use a different dice roller. I'm going to say, Lake, you're doing something called defend, which is when you
Sure.
in defense of a person, roll with Constitution. So why don't you give me your Constitution roll?
Okay, that's with a +1. All right, it's a 10.
Damn it! Well done, gentlemen. Let's start with the discern realities. The way this move works is with a success, you can ask 3 questions from the list below. That gives you guys 6 questions, and there are only 6 questions to be asked. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit and tell you that you not only you see where the arrows landed on the table, and so are able to understand or discern that they're coming from 2 different directions. The village, in my mind, is fairly small and surrounded by large trees, sort of picturing redwood type trees, because the angles you sense that they're coming from up above, and you can sort of see shadows in there. I'll let you ask each one more question from the list. So Leuven, why don't you go first?
Don't have the list.
Oh, you know what? It's on the basic moves tab on the character keeper. And the move is in the lower left-hand corner. Are you seeing that?
All right. Yeah. Let's see. Who's really in control here?
Oh, that's great. I'm going to introduce a twist that I was not anticipating at all, but it just occurred to me when you asked that question. The prisoner seems completely unfazed by this, almost as if he was expecting it. And so you've got a sense that maybe he might be in control. I mean, the arrows landed in the table.
Yeah.
Silas, what's your question?
I would say what here is not as it appears to be.
That's great. I'm going to say that you notice there are no other villagers here. That's it didn't really even occur to you at the outset, but Galarian is the only one here. And so you're starting to wonder, is this really even a village? And Lake, you rolled your defense, right?
Yeah.
And you did great. So when you defend, you hold 3. So this is sort of a currency. Now you have these 3. Hold is what they're called in Powered by the Apocalypse. And as long as you're standing in defense of this person, you can now spend the hold in different ways. You can cut in half the damage. That's one way. You can open up the attacker to an ally, giving that ally +1 forward against the attacker. So you can pass, if one of your other 2 allies chooses to attack the shadowy figures, they get +1 to their roll. Or you can deal damage to your attacker equal to half your level. That's going to be hard unless the attackers approach. So you've got these hold to spend as the situation unfolds. Now that you have...
So I spend those when, like, it's triggered by him getting attacked. Is that right?
As long as you are standing in defense of the prisoner, yes.
Okay.
So now that you have all of that information, Silas, I'll start with you. What do you do?
Let's see here. So I'm noticing that the so-called village is vacant. We have. Do I also see the 2 would-be assassins?
Yes, you can glimpse figures in the trees, and there may be more than 2.
Is it a long way up the tree? Is it, because you said they look like redwoods, and I think of those as very, very, very tall trees that it would take some time to scale.
Yeah, they're not at the tops of the trees, but they're in kind of low branches, maybe just above the height of the huts in the village.
Got it. Got it. All right. My thinking is, this is tricky. I don't want to be too paralyzed here, but my thinking is that I will. Here's what I'll do. I'll take the prisoner, kind of by the arm and hold him close, and I'll sort of gesture to Lake and say, "This time we do want you to use the sword." And I will try to kind of put myself between the prisoner and the arrows, and not really a human shield, use myself in that way, but try to provide some cover, someone they'd have to go through if someone wanted to sweep in and grab this guy.
Okay. As you approach the prisoner, he says, there's a mine nearby. That will provide a shortcut to the underground realm. I think we should head into the mine.
Can I get a read on if this guy is like BSing us, or if he's planned this, or he seems way too comfortable?
Sure, that's another discern realities roll.
Okay, this is where luck runs out, I bet. 9.
This roller is really like
Not the worst
player
thing.
friendly.
Yeah.
So you can ask one question from that list. Do you see the list?
Yes, I've got that pulled up with the character keeper. I would like to know what is about to happen.
You really get the feeling that it is going to be difficult to take on this group. That as you're looking around, you're seeing more figures, not just in the trees, but starting on the roofs of the huts, and maybe peeking around corners as well.
On second thought, don't use the sword.
Yeah. Silas, pause. Lubin, what are you doing?
I'm seeing. I grab the prisoner, and I just start pulling him in the direction that he pointed at, towards the mine, keeping him between me and the archers.
Okay, nice. Lake, are you letting the prisoner go?
It's funny because everyone said that they grabbed the prisoner.
Yeah.
It's just tugged in 3 different directions. Your video is frozen on my end. Does anyone else see that?
There we go. It's good now for me.
All right, sweet. Am I still considered to be standing in defense of him if I let go of him, but staying with him?
Good question. My assumption is if the prisoner's following Leuven, because he's the one who wanted to go into the mine, as long as you stick with them, your defense hold still holds. So you still can spend your hold as long as you are sticking with the prisoner or providing cover, I guess.
In that case, yeah, it's God. I'm hella not keen to go to this mine, but Leif doesn't have any reason to not go to this mine.
Follow me.
So
what have I
yeah,
got in your trouble?
Yeah, legend. So yeah, she'll let go of him, and she'll be like, I like this idea of using him as a meat shield. I'm keen on that, but I don't think it's late style. I think she's probably like getting between everybody and the archers.
Okay. I'm wondering. Okay. I thought you had more of a protection spell, Silas, but it does not look like Sanctuary provides protection in the way I thought it did.
Mm.
So, um, I'll do one Defy Danger roll to see if you all make it kind of as a group to the mine. So, Leuven, since you're the one who kind of started driving that train, why don't you give me a Defy Danger roll? Strength, Dex, or Con, or something else? What are you thinking? What is sort of the driving force behind this move?
Because it is dex based because I am zigzagging.
When they zig, that's
Yep.
good.
So
Right.
yeah, you see Leuven like he's running in like this, but he's running in such a tight zigzag that it really isn't much of a zigzag.
Right.
So
He's seeing Game of Thrones.
yeah, it's one of those where it's he's there, but his thinking is, I'm pretty sure that the prisoner is actually in charge here, so they're not going to shoot me as long as the prisoner is between me and the archers.
Interesting.
So yeah.
All right. So did you just roll that 8?
Yes. Yep. Well,
Nice.
8 plus 2, so 10.
Is a 10. So you all make it to the mine, but the interest of mine is boarded up. It says keep out, sort of classic cartoon style, keep out, danger, abandoned mind, that sort of thing. How are you going to get through the boards?
Like tries to kick it in. Like basically tries to walk straight through it.
You, as a fighter, have a fantastic move called Ben Bar's Lift Gates. And those of you who are familiar with first edition may remember Ben Bar's Lift Gates. So you're going to roll plus strength. You are trying to destroy an inanimate obstacle.
It's my favorite role. That is a 9.
9. All right. On a 7 to 9, you can choose 2 from that list.
It doesn't take a very long time. I almost don't want any of the other ones. Let's say we can fix the thing again without a lot of effort.
Are you sure?
Look, I can't think of a reason. Like, I'm not worried about nothing of value is damaged. Oh, well, hold on.
You might
Dungeon
lose
World.
something important.
Yeah. I didn't think of that because I was thinking about that with like nothing of value as in nothing of value, like the boards. But no, I see what Dungeon World is doing. I like it. No, I'll take. It doesn't take a very long time, and nothing of value is damaged.
Okay. That's good. But it is really noisy. Describe to me what this looks like of pounding through this this thing.
I think she's basically just like she's the sword, and she's got these like big like gauntleted hands, and she's just basically like tearing whole boards out, and then once like a couple of them are kind of like loose, she basically just like she steps back a few steps and like and then just charges straight through it.
Love it. And the splintering noise is unbelievable. I imagine you're sort of driven by a little bit of adrenaline too, so that there's like you're almost surprised at how, even though these boards looked super solid, how sort of easily they break apart in your hands. But the splintering sound is almost deafening, to the point where Leuven, you've been in enough mines and underground things, having spent a lot of time with adventurers, where you're pretty sure this noise is going to wake something up down below.
I absolutely know it is. So what I basically do is I just look at the rest of the party, grab my nose like I'm jumping into the pool, and just dive into the mine.
Nice. Um, as you enter the mine, the first of the assassins appears at the entrance. You see him silhouetted by the sun coming in, streaming in, and all you see is him just shaking his head.
I scream, "I've got you now!"
And you see kind of a thumbs up silhouetted by the sun, and he kind of backs off. What do you do?
I chase him full speed.
Or you're going to go back out of the mine?
Oh yeah, we saw the assassin wherever he is.
Well, there's you see them sort of starting. There's a couple of them starting to group. So
So so they're the outs. I thought they were assassins. Okay,
no.
so
They see you go into the mine. They follow you, but they know they've decided not to follow you into the mine. Perhaps because they know what lurks.
okay.
So let me ask the question again. What do you do?
I go full speed into the mine without a plan.
without
That is,
Who needs a plan?
well, I'm chaotic. It says leap into danger without a plan. So the mine is clearly where I'm going. So
so describe the mine to me. What is this? What does it look like on the inside?
the first step, securely on land. The second step drops about 8 feet.
Okay.
I'll land right down into kind of into a cart that is sitting there with a ladder behind me that goes up.
Nice.
And the first the problem that we've got right now is somehow on the way down I triggered the mining cart latch.
Of course.
And the cart starts to roll. So all you hear is a "Don't worry, I've got this" crash, and then now you're hearing a loud metallic grinding sound as things start to move, and I just scream, "Hurry up, get in here!"
Love it. Silas, what do you do?
Who has the prisoner at this time?
I was just going to ask that question.
He sort of has us.
But I feel like it's got to be Silas at this point, right? Because you've run down the mine and Lake. Tore open the thing.
Well, yeah, Leuven ran ahead. You didn't have him because you were knocking apart the board, so I would have been the one standing with him. Good. So the perhaps least dexterous person in the group is going to run full speed, dragging the bound prisoner with him, and attempt to do this diving leap into the quickly careening ahead mining cart, I suppose.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
So
right.
Just
It'll
make
be
sure
fine.
you've grabbed the prisoner and you're leaping into the cart.
Yes, like I have him under one arm, and I'm trying to heave both of our weight forward.
Of course you are. Perfect.
Incredible.
And Lake, what are you doing?
She's going to, once everybody is in the minecart, she's going to hop in after them.
All right. So she's standing. Is she standing guard to make? Are you standing guard to make sure that?
Exactly. She's not getting in until everyone else is in.
Okay. This is great. I'm going to need a Defy Danger roll from Silas, and you are rolling with Dex.
With Dex, I have a -1. Here we go.
Should be fine.
Sick.
Still got an 8.
This dice roller. I love this dice roller you found. This never happens to me with real dice.
Use it every time.
Let's see. You stumble, hesitate, or flinch. So you're successful in getting to the cart, but something happens to you. Here are some ideas, but I'm open to other ideas. The prisoner doesn't make it into the cart.
That's what I was thinking.
You drop your holy symbol, or getting injured is kind of lame, or here's another idea: the two of you landing in the cart pushes it creates more acceleration, so now Lake can't get in the cart. That's kind of my favorite one. So
We can go with that.
I like that.
Yeah, if we don't split the party too terribly much.
yeah, I really enjoy splitting the party. So again, I'm surprised it's taken me 2.5 hours to get to split the party.
I trust you. We'll do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, Leuven, what are you doing to control the cart?
I'm really not. What I'm doing is I realize that there are some broken ropes that are hanging down at different areas. So what I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to grab one of the ropes as they come down. The problem, I don't necessarily understand the concept of how much momentum this cart is generating with the weight on it. And so, yeah, right now I'm trying to basically grab a rope to stop the cart, which would be fine if it was just me.
Right. Hold that thought. Lake, you've seen the cart speed away.
Yeah.
The assassins
With
are
everybody else in it.
Yeah, the assassins are a non-threat. They've walked away. It's sort of 20 feet up the mine entrance. What do you do? Sorry, all in season.
Bless you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, Lake is going to start charging after the cart like the Terminator, just like hoofing it. I'm undecided whether she wants to slow the cart down or just get into it. Is it continuing to accelerate? Is it like a downward?
Yeah. Let's say you feel like that there's enough of an incline in this where it's going to keep going, and you have it's getting dark. You have no sense of how far.
Oh God, it's dark, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so she wants to get in it before it's getting too fast to I don't think she would expect to be able to stop it at this point.
Okay. Let's start with Leuven. Or actually, Silas, let me ask you: is there anything now that you landed in the cart, anything you want to do to help out, or?
Is there any kind of discernible like braking mechanism on this cart? To bring it to a screeching halt? Has that long rusted off?
You are not especially knowledgeable about carts or mining or mechanics,
Right.
but why don't we try this? We'll start with you. There's something called spout lore. This is when you consult your accumulated knowledge about something, you roll with intelligence. So why don't you give me a spout lore roll?
Certainly. Intelligence is a 0. 12, exactly.
Holy shit! Excuse my French.
What? Boxcars.
Well done. I'll work with that. Leuven, why don't you give me your Defy Danger roll as you start to grab at these ropes up above?
11.
I'm going to need a different dice roller.
What's up with this dice roller?
It's
That's
great.
not how probabilities work.
I'm going to start using this in the game in which I'm a player. Lake, a Defy Danger with Dex to try and see if you've caught up to it.
What's my dex? That's a 1. Tonight, that's a 9.
Fantastic. All right. You were Defying Danger with Dex. Okay. So you need to stumble, hesitate, or flinch. Leuven, you got a 9 plus something, right?
Plus Dex, I'm assuming,
Okay.
because I'm trying to grab the rope.
So you successfully grab the rope.
I see
and-
myself flying out of the cart at this point.
Yeah, I feel like you were successful in doing what you wanted to do, which is grab the rope. You were unsuccessful in stopping the cart.
Yep.
However, Silas's spout lore, you start to remember something useful about mining carts, and that they do have an emergency brake. Out of curiosity, what in your background would let you kind of remember this kind of detail about mining carts?
I think that perhaps many years ago is part of something of an initiation ritual for this mystery cult of which I am a member. Of course we did it in an abandoned mine, and that was the way that we got to the secret grove location where we all stood in a circle and chanted, but we got there via minecart. So I didn't drive it, but I saw some things.
Oh, this whole kingdom is just mine carts after mine carts. It's on the flag.
It's all the way down.
Yeah.
The eye is unseeing because it's dark in the mine.
Exactly, yeah, perfect.
Lake, you grab the cart.
Great.
And you kind of pull it to try and stop it, but Silas has already applied the brake, and it takes a little bit of effort, but all is silent now. Cart has stopped moving. Leuven's hanging by a rope. Lake is standing on the tracks of the mine cart, and you are now deep inside a mine. And all you hear is the prisoner, again, sort of chortling under his breath, and says, "I did not think this was going to be this much fun."
Yikes.
At which point it is absolutely, totally dark.
Yes.
I was gonna say I would like to see about pulling out a torch and getting that going.
As a reminder, one of your rotes is light. So
Oh, I thought I had to select. I didn't know how spellcasting works. I have to choose like a rote that I have prepped, or do I always have all of my rotes
you always
prepped?
have all your rotes.
Oh, we'll just do that then.
Okay.
Good. I will attempt to cast light. Do you have to roll for rote spells?
Yes, when you unleash a spell granted by your deity.
Okay,
The
even if
advantage
it's
to a rote is that they're always granted. So
okay, so I still do roll for this though.
that's right.
Okay, and it's with wisdom.
That's right.
All right, here we go. There we go. 5.
At last.
The light works regardless of the roll. By the way, you can mark failed roll there.
Sure.
Yeah, the light works. Is it your warhammer or your token? Your what lights up? What does that look like?
I think it would be most appropriate if it were perhaps my holy symbol. This unseeing eye now has this sort of amber halo, kind of a corona of sorts that surrounds it.
Nice. And what do you see with the light cast? Now, what is coming into your vision?
I think that we were very blessed to have applied the brake at the time we did, because just 10 or 20 feet shy of us is a massive chasm, and we would surely have been doomed to certain death had we not at that moment stopped.
Yeah. Not only that, I think what you see is this is where a collapse happened, which probably explains why the mine has been closed. The tracks, they don't necessarily even veer; they just stop because they've been broken off. You see maybe remnants of a bridge that once crossed part of this chasm, but that the chasm got much worse. Leuven, what do you think they mined in this mine? What was the purpose of this mine?
They actually what they have is called dark crystals, and what it is, it's they're actually used to put next to fires, and when they put next to a fire, the fire goes out. So they're actually used as kind of if there's a fire in a building, they can basically throw these in there and it'll snuff the fire out. But yeah, so this is an old cave. It's long since been dried up, but that was what they were mining in here. Dark crystals.
Lake, what was I going to ask you? Do you have a sense of why the mine, what caused the collapse? Why the mine was abandoned? What evidence are you seeing here? Let me start here. What evidence do you see that this was a once active mine?
What evidence do I see?
Yeah. As you look around, what's left over?
I think there are actually like curiously there are some spots where they've actually got how do they store these dark crystals? What do you think?
Um, I I think that they kept them in tiny little baskets, which were they sort of look like lanterns because that was ironic. Um, but it's been a long time since I've actually had a lot of them.
And maybe it's problematic if you put them next to each other.
Yeah, the idea is it eats fire, but if it has too much, like if you throw in too few, it can cause an explosion. So it eats and consumes fire, but if it gets overwhelmed, it can be disastrous, which is part of the reason why they don't use it anymore.
So I think the evidence is that there are actually some of those left over just sort of scattered around as though they cleared out in such a hurry that they didn't even take out any of the stuff that they had actually prepared to remove.
Great. So I do have a failed roll that I still need to cash in. As you are sort of coming to your bearings, right? Trying to understand everything that you're seeing. There is where the mine drops off, or where the cart would have dropped off, but there's kind of a ledge that would allow you to kind of keep going through the mine. It sort of wends its way along the edge of this chasm, and standing there, in fact, emerging from these dark crystals are ghosts, and they look pissed. They absorbed the energy of some people who were down here, and now that they've been disturbed by whatever it is you people were doing, they have come they've been raised, right? And now they are unrest, and they look at you. Sadly, as a child of the 80s, the ghosts in my head are more Ghostbusters than anything else. So I'm picturing that ghost in the library at the very beginning, kind of does one of those. One of the ghosts does one of those things.
Incredible.
Sorry you had to witness me doing that. What do you do? There's 3 of them.
I
look over at Silas and go, "This is your area."
And
says, "I hate ghosts."
And so it is. I would like to. I believe I have Turn Undead as a cleric.
Yep.
We'll give that a try. I'll hold my holy symbol aloft and call upon the unseeing eye to protect us against these things.
Fantastic. I don't know that I've ever used this move. So, did you just? Oh no, that's not. That was your other roll.
That was, yeah. So go ahead and roll it with wisdom.
Yep.
All right. That's a 10.
On a 10 plus, so on a 7 plus, as long as you continue to pray and brandish your holy symbol, no undead may come within reach of you. On a 10 plus, you also momentarily daze intelligent undead and cause mindless undead to flee. Nicely done. Aggression breaks the effects, and they are able to act as normal. Intelligent undead may still find ways to harry you from afar. They're clever like that. So first, I want to hear what this turn undead ritual looks like.
I imagine that it involves me, I have this holy symbol kind of about my neck, and I, pull it off. It's hanging from perhaps a leather cord or something like that, and I brandish it like so, and hold it directly in front of my face, such that from their perspective, it's like my body, and then my whole face is just this eye. And there are these sort of three rays that kind of emanate forth from it, as if it's looking directly at each one of them individually. And as they are struck by these rays, they are almost repelled by it, almost as if they are pushed backward out to the boundaries of the turn undead ability. And as long as I maintain that holy symbol in front of my face, they remain repelled and the rays remain locked on their position.
I would imagine that since you need to kind of go where they are, that you are kind of walking forward. And I imagine you saying something like, you all can follow me now, but don't.
Right. It's somewhat akin to someone like brandishing a crucifix in front of a vampire, and as they walk forward, the vampire is pushed back further and further.
Great. Lake, how do you react to these dead? I would imagine that this might bring up some memory from the war you fought in.
I feel like definitely Lake hates ghosts. There's no question about that. I think probably this is maybe the first time anybody else here has seen Lake's composure kind of break. She looks like frightened.
Okay. What does that look like when is it just on her face, or does her body language change at all, or does she act at all in the face of the sphere?
She's I think she's actually backing up. She's like drawn her sword and is like holding it in front of her like a like something that she can use to maintain, like something between her and the ghosts. And she's actually moving away from where we need to be going.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to give me a Defy Danger with Wisdom. So that's with mental fortitude, trying to maintain your composure here.
Okay. It's an 8.
And your Wisdom?
It's a 0.
Okay. So you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. So you're able to follow Silas, but you are not necessarily keeping an eye on the prisoner. And the prisoner makes a break for it. He doesn't seem too disturbed by the ghosts. Leuven, what do you do?
I am, as soon as he makes a break for it, I try to grab him.
Okay.
So that, I guess I was just waiting for him to make his move. So okay. I'm gonna try to see if I can grab him.
Okay. Why don't you Defy Danger with Dex for me?
An 11.
He says, I don't know what you are waiting for. We need to get through these, get through this nonsense. We're very close. Once we go down this trail, will be at the entrance to the back entrance to the underground realm, because every city has a back entrance apparently. Let's go. What do you do?
I go. Let's just push ahead. I assumed he went to take one step, and I kind of grabbed him and just said, no. Let's keep going. I'm tired. This is supposed to be a milk run.
Nice. Silas, how are you leading the party forward?
It's very tricky because I just realized that by holding this thing directly in front of my head, I've obscured my own vision somewhat. So I suppose I'm having to sort of keep a little bit of distance between the symbol and myself so I can kind of see around it or see under it, at least enough that I'm able to see the ledge in front of me. And I'm going to carefully try to step forward onto it. Didn't want to be in a position to be leading the group, but that's just where we are. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. I'm going to say that are you trying to like push the ghosts forward along the ledge, like in your mind's eye? Where are the ghosts relative to?
Right. I think that I'm kind of pushing them along the ledge. If they are the types of ghosts that can fly, they might be floating out over the chasm somewhat.
Right.
But that's the general idea, is that they're here, and as I move forward, they are repelled as I continue to keep focus on turning undead.
Okay. As they get further and further from the crystals in which they were, they're getting more and more agitated. I'm also imagining that because you had to, because you are turning undead, you had to kind of turn off your light spell. The holy symbol can't multitask. So the light is now getting dim. It's really only the glow that's coming off the ghosts and the glow that's coming off for the turn undead. As they get further from the crystals, they merge into a single horrible ghost-like creature, and that's just enough strength to kind of start to resist the turn undead. What do you do?
How far is it from where we are to, I mean, I know that there's not a whole lot of light left, but some kind of visible exit or some kind of out, because I'm not going to be able to hold this guy much longer.
Yeah, when the prisoner pointed to an opening, let's call it 100 feet away on the ledge. I'm picturing the ledge kind of wraps around this chasm, and that there are kind of places to go on the other side.
Got it. I mean, in that case, I'm just gonna have to explain the situation very quickly to the fellow party members behind me, and I mean, I'll keep this thing repelled as long as I can, but I'm doing it whilst also beginning to, I mean, not really run across the ledge, but as quickly as I can whilst maintaining some kind of semblance of safety.
Like when you see these ghosts merge, how do you react?
I think that I have just enough prior experience with undead for this to be kind of one of those oh crap moments, like, oh, I know where this is headed. I know how this story ends. So that's where my heart drops out of my chest. I'm like, no, and I just start, sorry guys, we gotta go. And I'm just like taking off, hoping that you can bring the prisoner behind you, but this is no place to be.
And I was asking Lake how she reacted.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's great.
Well, now you know Silas's take on it too. Sorry.
All right. Lake is basically, I feel like Lake would be basically panicking about this giant ghost that's just appeared. Like she was worried about like these 3 normal sized ghosts. Now there's a giant one. I didn't even know there were giant ghosts. Hate it. She's like she's kind of like shaking a bit, and she's muttering some kind of comforting prayer under her breath, as she's against the wall and trying to like trying to put herself as far off from the ghost as she can.
Okay. Are you trying to move forward, or are you hanging back, or?
I think at this point she's trying to get past Silas.
Okay.
Like she's just trying to get like that's the way out, and there's a guy in my way.
As you push past Silas, the ghost notices you, and while sort of kind of shielding itself from the turn undead energy that's coming off Silas, it takes a swipe at you. What do you do?
Absolutely freak out. So I guess she'll try to take a swing at it, just like in completely reflexively. She'll this is a really like tight ledge, right?
Not too tight. I would imagine
Okay.
that all three of you could walk side by side.
Okay. Yeah. She'll take a swing at him, but everyone's pretty like close together at this point. It seems like a bad idea, but that's what she's doing.
So give me a hack and slash roll.
That's a 10 plus 2.
Unbelievable. Do you want to do extra damage at the risk of exposing yourself?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I don't think she's really thinking straight at this point.
Okay, so you slice through the ghost and doing extra damage. What about your signature weapon allows you to do damage to undead?
Interesting. I marked it as being ancient.
Nice.
So I imagine that the fellow I killed to gain it was maybe some kind of necromancer.
Brutal. Love it. Okay. So that person specifically enchanted this weapon just in case their magic went horribly wrong.
Exactly right.
Okay. I love it. So the ghost I don't know. Let me ask. Leuven, did you want to take a crack at this ghost, or are we good kind of wrapping up this combat?
No, what I'm doing during the course of this is I'm making sure that I keep my hands on the prisoner.
Good.
But at the same time, I'm rubbing into the back of his neck, golden root. And then I, at which point I turn his face to face me. So he's now a trusted ally.
Amazing.
That was awesome. Golden root. The target treats the next creature they see as a trusted ally until proven otherwise. Prisoner takes a look at you and says, Leuven.
Yes, friend.
You are my best friend.
Always have been.
Leuven, I don't know. I don't know why it's taken me so long to see this.
It's all right. It takes a while for people to get around to me.
No. Listen, I have not had always your best interest in my heart, and I feel guilty about that.
Well, I forgive you. Now, what can we do? What can you tell me now?
I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like in the background of this exchange, Lake is just screaming and like swinging.
And
we're having a moment.
Silas is so confused, just hears all of this behind.
Just hold up the holy symbol.
I'm trying to concentrate here. This is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. And we're having a moment. We got to break through.
How long does Golden Root last?
Until I prove otherwise.
Oh.
Which I will not.
So the prisoner says, you can't turn me over to the underground realm people.
Okay, we won't. Why?
They know that although they sent me to your world, to your people as a spy, at the end of the day, I was going to double cross them. So they're going to try me for treason, and they're going to throw me down this chasm, which is what they do with people who have committed treason, with no trial, no nothing.
Into the ghost pit?
Into the ghost pit. You don't want that to happen to me, your best friend.
No, of course not. So were the assassins yours?
We were trying to stage an escape, but
Got it.
I trusted Galerion to hire some good folks to work on that escape. But the problem is, I had hoped in the confusion, you would all run to the mine. I would get to go away, but you all were too conscientious for your jobs, which in retrospect, I should know that.
You should have hired us.
I think very highly of you. I couldn't be sure that at the time, I couldn't be sure that I could trust you. But now I know. Now I know better. You are my best friend.
Of course. Now, how do we get, are these ghosts yours? Or are these just like the threats? Like, well, first of all, where should we avoid? Where would we go? Like, what's the one spot we shouldn't take you?
Well, so I was pointing to that entrance there. That takes us to the back door of the underground realm. Mm-hmm. But the next one, which is what I'd actually pointed out to you, takes us back out through the old temple of Argarath, through the ruined temple of Argarath, and meets up with the river down below the waterfalls.
So that's the better place to go to take you.
That's where I had suggested taking us, thinking that you guys wouldn't know how to get to the underground realm. But now I know that we're on the same side.
Yeah.
I tell you, we should go that route. So you can get away, and I'll find a way to pay you back. I mean, I've been in prison for 10 years, but I'm sure I can find a way to pay you back.
I'm sure. At which point are you guys? I'm sure you guys are overhearing this conversation.
The ghost has dissipated. Lake's fears about ghosts have been completely confirmed. You're still completely traumatized by ghosts, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're kind of teeing up for a break. How do you react to the things that you're hearing Leuven and the prisoner talk about? Silas, why don't you go first?
I am beyond confused, and honestly, I think my first reaction, because I don't know that this guy, put golden root on him. I would assume that this guy has completely pulled the wool over Leuven's eyes. He's finally bested him in this battle of wits, and now he's trying to turn him against the rest of the party. So I feel like I would be tempted to almost yell, "Don't trust him! What are you doing?" Something along those lines.
Love it.
At which point I pull out a dagger. I pull out my dagger and I go I'm proceeding to wink furiously at the party, trying to get my message across. And I start saying, "They're turning against us, my friend. We need to defend ourselves." So I'm trying to get them to incapacitate him. So I'm seen as his friend still.
Interesting. Silas, do you buy it? Or do we? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask Leuven to make a Defy Danger roll.
And here's where we lose horribly and we kill each other.
With intelligence for quick thinking.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I rolled a 2.
Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. There it is.
About time.
But I see the die roller was holding it, was waiting for an opportune moment.
So it's fairly clear that your quick thinking does not have the desired effect. Silas?
I think the ever-seeing eye is if a person is winking, it is an insult.
Good one.
So
Because
basically,
one eye.
so basically, I'm like giving him the finger over and over and over again. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
That is so great.
Perfect.
Silas and Lake, I want you to think about your reactions to Leuven's unexpected behavior. We got about 20 minutes left. Make a choice. Choice one is we stay in the moment that we were just in, and you all react to Leuven's unusual behavior, or we fast forward, whether it's hour or days, to a place where we kind of see the fallout of what happened from this scene. I'm totally okay doing either. Do anyone have a preference? You want to stay in the moment, or do you want to kind of fast forward and see how things all shake out?
I think because of the time, maybe fast forwarding, just to see. I think that the fact that I completely and utterly botched that role is going to be, an indicator of how the next couple of minutes can potentially go. It's
Yes.
going to be could be painful couple of minutes for me.
I'm happy with that.
Sure, that works.
So fast forward.
I feel like after, like, once Lake understands, like, is taken in what the absolute failure of you to communicate what is going on, she's just like wordlessly just like hefts her sword and is bearing down on you. She's just walking towards you and the prisoner.
And I'm still winking furiously, trying to get this across, and all I'm doing is making the situation worse. But
Leuven,
right.
is this where you die, or do you just become another prisoner?
Oh, I have a feeling that I am going to be in this close of quarters. The fact that the prisoner is unarmed, the fact that I'm not really going to be fighting back, and the fact that Lake is probably just got off the victory of cheating the ghost. I have a feeling I'm going to get the blunt side of a two-handed sword
Okay.
to the back of my head. I
Okay.
don't necessarily think she would kill me.
No.
But she would definitely knock me the hell out.
Lake, does that sound right to you?
That sounds exactly right.
Silas, are you intervening at all, or are you like?
If we weren't fast forwarding through this, my next step would have been to cast Bless on Lake. So I'm not only is all this happening, but Lake is also glowing with some sort of divine enchantment that makes it hurt that much more.
And I'm trying to make myself available to get the wounds, to help out too. So it's one of those where like, this is the easiest. Yeah.
I'm picturing you arriving at the underground realm, with Silas holding the prisoner, who's just like, oh my gosh, and Lake carrying Leuven on her shoulder. He is unconscious from where you kind of smacked him without gravely injuring him. Does that all sound about right to you all?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I kind of imagine Leuven at some point starting to wake up.
Okay, good.
Realizing that he is flung over a barbarian's arm and shoulder. And at which point he realizes that he's got 2 more applications of golden root.
Nice.
So he reaches over, puts it on his hand, and then tries to gently move his hand over to where the bare skin is, and then pretends to be asleep as he's holding it against Lake.
Okay.
So at which point, by the time they get there, Lake realizes that, she just knocked out somebody that she really liked.
Hang on. Before we go there, I don't want Lake to feel like she's lost, or James to feel like he's lost control of his character. James, what do you think? Does Lake kind of get golden rooted that's probably not the right way of putting it. But get this application of golden root, or has she been building up a immunity to golden root after all these years? What do you think?
Interesting. I do. Well, I'm tempted by both, to be honest. They could really, either is a great narrative choice.
Mm.
I'm going to say she gets golden rooted.
Okay, so you feel okay with that?
Yep.
Okay,
Let's
great.
do it.
In fact, I'll give you an XP. Not that it really matters, but if we were playing a longer campaign, I would want you to feel like some reward for going along with that. How does your demeanor towards Leuven change now that you're sensing he's an ally? We could do something else. Something just popped into my head. It's based on the first person that you see, and maybe you're not necessarily looking at Leuven, because
That's actually a very good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
flung over your shoulder.
Yeah. Who's the first person that I see?
That'd be a good roll.
You tell me.
Mm. You're saying that we're entering this unfamiliar city, and I've just been golden rooted.
Yes, and you're in the underground realm now. People are starting to come out to greet you. Maybe you see your mirror image.
There it is.
Oh.
Yep.
There it is.
Excellent.
I feel good about that, as you can
Oh
see.
yeah.
Lake, you okay with
I'm
that?
into it. Yeah, absolutely. That's gold.
A man approaches you. He has the same sort of features as the prisoner does. You can tell his name is Artor. He introduces himself as Artor. He's of the underground realm. He says to you, I see you brought the prisoner, who he refers to by his proper name, Hanvas. I see you brought Hanvas to us. We were not sure if your side would keep up your end of the bargain. With Leuven unconscious, Lake or Silas, who's doing the talking here?
I think Silas.
Sure. Yeah, I can speak.
We weren't sure you would live up to your end of the bargain.
Well, you had no reason to disbelieve in our capabilities, although I must admit that it was a somewhat circuitous route. But nonetheless, we have arrived on time with the promised cargo.
That is true. We will take him from here. If it weren't for our spies, we would not have realized you were coming in the back way. Next time, please, not that there will be a next time, but it would have been nice if you had sent word from which direction you were coming.
Completely understandable. You have my apologies and my thanks for being so accommodating.
The problem is that we don't have what you need to bring back to your people here. You're going to need to go to our capital, which is where we are holding that.
Does that seem like legitimate to me, or is he putting us into a trap? Can I?
There's no reason to doubt.
Okay.
Especially since you know that, or maybe since you know that Hanvas, the prisoner, is being tried as a traitor.
All right. So they're not being, disingenuous or disreputable or anything. Okay. Well, I would believe them, and I would ask the requisite questions about how to get there, and what that would look like, and all that kind of business stuff.
Yeah, it's fairly clear. It's another day's journey. It's a very extensive realm under the mountain, but otherwise, Artor kind of grabs the prisoner and says to Hanvas, I'm sure you thought it would never come to this, and starts to walk off with him. Meanwhile, a group of people has come to, there's kind of a settlement here in the underground realm, at the edge of the underground realm, and some villagers have come to gather around here. Lake, is this your big moment?
I think so. I think she will actually. So she sees. Based on how Golden Root works, it sounds like she saw her mirror image a while ago in the scene, like in the crowd.
Like the first
Is that right?
person you laid eyes on.
Yeah.
After Leuven applied the Golden Root. Yeah.
It's eerie. There's just a face that looks just like her staring right at her from the crowd. So at some point after that whole exchange, she'll just lower Leuven to the ground. Basically just just drop you on the ground like a sack of potatoes. And she'll stride just stride up through the crowd toward this figure.
So we've agreed that this is true, that there are mirror images of people in the underground realm, which I'm okay with. Sounds
Seems
good.
that way.
Yeah.
At least for some.
What do you, at least for some, what are you, actually, is she definitely your mirror image, or have you been convinced she's your mirror image because of the Golden Root?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Or maybe we need to wait and see. Maybe we don't know.
She's a
Yeah,
4'11" redhead. She looks nothing like you.
I want to see what happens when we interact.
What do you say to her?
We figure that.
She sort of looks taken back as you approach her.
She says, "We finally meet."
She says,
and she holds out her hand.
Covered in ghost blood or something. What do you mean we finally meet?
You're my other.
Other what?
Lake will look slightly like, oh, this is a fun joke that you're playing. And she'll just like, don't you see?
She says, we do look a lot alike. That's startling. I didn't realize people from your world look like people from my world. Let me ask you, you are not perfectly identical twins, let's say. What distinguishes you from her? What is one distinction?
Which one has the goatee?
Maybe different color hair? Is it that blunt, or is there something more subtle?
I think that there is a perhaps she has a birthmark like on her neck.
Nice.
And on the other leg, it's on the other side.
Nice. Okay, good. So not quite mirror images of each other, or maybe they are mirror images of each other because they're on right and left side. Perfect. Yep. Love it.
Yeah.
She says, well, maybe we do have stuff to talk about. Would you care to join me for a coffee?
Please. I'd love to. No, it's funny, she says. I actually came down here very, very frightened of you. I came down here to kill you, she says. But now, I think maybe we should team up.
And she says, team up? I'm a baker.
Excellent.
You do
want
to keep going?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, they're okay. They're walking off, and Lake's like, You kill ghosts, I kill ghosts, you bake bread. It's a perfect match.
Perfect match. The golden root has spoken. Yes. I love that. Leuven, you are waking up.
Yeah.
Your plan is backfired.
Uh-huh.
What do you do?
I am so proud of my plan. This went exactly as I was expecting it to go. The concept of a plan backfiring never goes through his mind at all.
Love it.
He just wakes up and he goes, Silas, help me up.
I look at what's going on around me and just wonder, has the whole world gone mad?
Just give me a hand. And I kind of reach my hand up.
I'll take your hand.
And I start to hug you. I go, that went so well. Most of the time, these don't go well at all.
That was your plan.
Yeah.
I kind
We're here.
I look around in disbelief and say, you are one of the... Well done.
Thank you.
This is what I'll say.
I go, now we need to drink. I wonder what they're serving around here.
Sounds good.
That was end scene. That was great. I think we're done
All right.
with that. Should we do a couple minutes of epilogue? I kind of want to hear like what you all think happens to your characters.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to like assume that you all continue to team up, or just ask permission of the other one to make sure that that's okay with them. So Silas, let me start with you. What do you think? What happens to Silas?
I don't know what he would do over the next few years, but I do have this scene in my head. It's like a flash forward to a foot chase. And Silas is running through the woods after this cowardly bandit who's made off with some mystical relic or artifact or something along those lines. And there's this edge of a cliff that the guy jumps over with his relic, and I rush to the edge of the cliff and look down and see this wide, clear, pristine lake that he's jumped into. And I smile to myself and mutter wisdom in all things and leap forward into the lake, my fear of water gone.
Excellent.
That is some character arc. I love it. Not afraid of water, not afraid of water.
Yep.
I love it. That's great. Thank you. Lake?
I think
Baker.
Lake becomes a baker. Is very bad at making bread. I think that Lake doesn't return to the surface world, and there are rumors of her this like champion of the rebellion against this necromancer figure, who has teamed up with this like a bakery apparently, and is like fighting ghosts, and like this become a ghost hunter, and is actually like they've found a way to make bread out of ghosts.
I love it. That's so great. I
It's a
feel
new
like
industry.
a little bit of my reality right now is just trying to find bread. So that's great. Like the ectoplasm of a ghost turns out to be a better leavening agent than really anything else that they can find.
Yeah,
It's super fast yeast.
Yeah, it's the best yeast ever.
It rises like the dead.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Silas is like, I'm gonna turn some of those lobes. Leuven.
Years in the future, Leuven's sitting there as the guild master of the Troubleshooters Guild, just telling story after story, some of which are true, and every story is just a colossal screw up. But that's kind of the only way. Not in a bad way. He always seems to come out on the right side of every colossal misstep.
Right.
And that's just kind of the way he goes through life. Whenever there's a huge kerfuffle or an explosion, he tends to work out well out of it.
Nice.
That's just, he's just walking karma, but that's kind of just the way he goes through life, and not a bad bone in his body.
Right.
Just chaos.
Just always coming to the edge of being perfectly successful. Just,
Oh yeah. If he wouldn't know how to deal with something that went flawlessly.
Right.
Yeah.
Friends, we've come to the end of our session. That was, I personally had a lot of fun, and I'm grateful to you all for coming with me on this adventure.